All systems are go. Yay. Mercury turns direct November 29th, 2025. And whew, are we glad to hear that? I know for many of us, this Mercury retrograde has been intense. I've heard several stories of people having really big setbacks, huge epiphanies within themselves or in special areas of their lives. And the snafus have been really quite challenging. Um, let's just say Cloudflare comes to mind for many of us. That disruption was quite significant. And maybe you had some emotional blowups with people, which can definitely happen when Mercury is retrograde, but especially when it's retrograde in both Sagittarius and Scorpio, as we have experienced. But it's a couple more days. November 29th, it goes direct. I'm just looking at my notes real quick. And then it will clear that post shadow retrograde period, December 16th, 2025. So, what that means is between now and November 16th, you can clean up whatever came up during these last 3 weeks of the Mercury retrograde. So, if there were communication challenges or snafus, or if you had communication breakthroughs, which can also sometimes happen during Mercury retrograde, you can act on those breakthroughs going forward. And that post shadow period is a time to clean up some of those things. So maybe if you did have an emotional blowout with someone, there may be time during that post shadow period to have a reconciliation, a meeting of the minds, and people will probably be in a calmer space. And I think this is also cool too because Saturn has gone direct a couple days before. So again, we have more energy, more momentum to move forward. So maybe if you got stalled on a project during the Mercury retrograde, you can pick that up in this post shadow period. You can complete it. You can finalize the details. Since Mercury is direct, governs our communication, how we receive information, how we digest information. Um, and also, a lot of times, it also rules our day to day activities, our day to day routines. So maybe you had trouble implementing a new routine, a new practice. Now, in this post shadow period, you'll be able to do that. If you were holding up negotiations or contracts because Mercury was retrograde, now you'll be able to complete that. You can begin to make travel plans, especially if you are going to be traveling, say, for Christmas or New Year's. That post shadow period, great time to finalize those travel details or make those travel arrangements. We're also moving towards the winter solstice. I'll probably do a separate video on that as well in a couple of weeks. But you can also begin preparing, thinking about that. I know a lot of people like to have winter solstice rituals, winter solstice gatherings, or if you've never done that for yourself, maybe that's something you can consider doing and start planning that now during that post shadow period. That could be fun. I might actually do that for myself now that I'm talking it out loud with you all. But I basically just want to come in here real quick and say, Mercury is gone direct. And this is a great time to reflect on what you learned these past 3 weeks, what has changed in your own communication style, what are the contracts or opportunities that maybe presented themselves to you or that were on pause during the retrograde, and how do you want to move forward? What would you like to see happen next? What do you want to do next in those areas? And then this could also be a time to look at projects that you want to work on between now and the next Mercury retrograde, which is going to be happening in February of 2026. So look at what you'd like to accomplish between now and then. What are the projects that you'd like to maybe potentially take off of the back burner? Is there something new that you'd like to implement or offer to your communities, to your space? And where have you been silencing yourself as a result of this Mercury retrograde and some of the challenges that came up? Where did you find yourself not speaking up? Where did you not stand up for yourself? And why? Sit with that. Think about that. And then during this post shadow period, you can begin to look at ways to address that. How do you want to stand up for yourself going forward? How do you want to communicate with people you have difficulties communicating with? Are there parameters that you can set up for yourself? Are there boundaries that you can put in place with those people? And this is also going direct around the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States. So maybe you're about to go into the holiday with people that you have serious disagreements with. And those might be heightened because we're moving closer to the time that Mercury is about to turn direct. So be aware of that the communication issues might become more challenging, more difficult right before it turns direct. So come up with a strategy for when you're meeting with people on Thanksgiving this year, if that's the case. Is there a way to practice nonviolent communication? Is there a way to practice active listening? And how can you be compassionate with yourself? How can you stand up for yourself in those relationships, in those dynamics at these family gatherings in a way that is graceful, that is respectful? How can you do it in a way that is calm and civil? One of the things I do when I find myself in these challenging situations is to return to my breath, to simply sit still, pause, and breathe, to take a beat before I respond. Because it's very easy when people trigger us or when we've had them trigger us in the past to assume that they're going to trigger us this year. And I have to give myself permission to fantasize about it being better, not worse. What if it's better this year than it was last year? What if they're kinder this year? What if they're softer this year? What if they've matured? What if they've grown more? I have been doing my best to look at myself and become more self-responsible and to be clear about what my values are. Maybe they've done the same. And how can I meet them from a space of grace? How can I see that their perspective is because they genuinely believe that this is the way to make the world a better place? And I just simply disagree with how we get there. If I can assume that the intention comes from a positive, loving space, and I do genuinely believe that for 99% of the population, that is what's happening, that people genuinely feel and believe what they feel and believe because they think that's what's going to make the world better, that this is what's going to keep them or their family safe, their friends, their community safe. We may just simply disagree about the tactics, but we have the same values. So taking the time to remember that makes it easier for me to go into those dynamics, those situations, and to breathe and to remind myself it's temporary. It's just one day. It's just one meal. So often with holidays, we attach so much meaning and significance that we make it more overwhelming in our minds. There's all this pressure to create the perfect memory. I invite you to let that go. Just drop it. What if it doesn't have to be perfect? What if it just has to be a nice time? What if it's just a nice meal? Like, take the pressure off. Give yourself permission to just be in the moment, be present, and be willing to imagine that it's good, that it's going to be wonderful. Because half the time, it's really just our expectations that determine the outcome. So just wanted to offer that to you as well. And I'm wishing you so much love. I have a lot of ways to support you. I'm offering now free 30-minute witnessing you sessions. So it's a way for you to experience what it's like to work with me one-on-one. I have paid you illuminated sessions. Those were 90 minutes. I'm offering free general birth chart readings by email only. That's just $47. And I also have my Skool community still, $9 a month, $50 a year. So that's also an opportunity for you to connect with me and work with more like-minded people as well. So wishing you so much love, so much peace, so much joy. All the best. Easefully yours, Darice.